Hey, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another stream of Lyre Edits. Um, the timing for today has been a little strange, hasn't it? We switched back from daylight savings time into our regular time overnight. So, good news for me, I gained an hour of sleep. On the flip side, though, I think it might have been a bit tricky for people to figure out when I was starting the stream. I also put a new countdown timer on my dashboard, but the only way I could get it to sync up with when I would be streaming tomorrow, this is from the perspective of yesterday, I had to forcibly put in a time that was like an hour ahead. But then I thought that wasn't too smart because the computers know daylight savings, and I kind of preempted myself there, so I have no idea when that timer, I think, was timing down to. The long and short of it is that it's still 9 AM for me, but it might be an hour ahead of when you usually tune in to stream. So the timer works now, I think. I'm taking it on good faith. But it also means that, yeah, it might maybe, I think it's an hour ahead currently of when we usually start for you guys. And I didn't realize this was going to happen. My apologies. I'm usually okay with daylight savings time. It sneaks up on you twice, forward, back, but yeah. Good. A couple of housekeeping things. What I was doing just then was typing into the Discord channel, which you are all more than welcome to join my channel. I'm gonna dragoon myself a small army of followers this way. I'll post the link in TTLSCC. That's great. You weren't lying about the MS Paint. Fantastic. Let me expand that. Hang on. I love a little stick figure guy in the corner of the in the corner of the life raft. Do you mind if I post that onto the? Hang on. Twitch chat. Where is my invite for the Discord thing? It's on my dashboard. I don't know, sometimes whenever I talk about technology, I feel as though, like, I over-explain things. It's like, you just go to a dashboard, now it's on there, but I'm gonna paste it here for you. So there's, there it is. And feel free to pop in and say hi. Good. And this is the image that TTLACC drew of the first like opening chunk of the story that we played with last time. I think this is a pretty good approximation of what I had in my mind for the opening paragraph. Give us your flesh, says the bird. Yeah, okay, that's, wow. Good memory for all the details too, like the green background and the weird clouds. I love how the bird is kind of like halfway between its bird state and its what the hell state. Oh, and sorry, no, that's its travel lines coming down onto the side of the boat. I love how Sai is like covered in ketchup. I mean, what other color is Sai? Sai's probably incredibly sunburned from having been on that boat for like a month back to back, day after day. I mean, if it's on the boat, it can't really move, can it? Hello, Octavia Memories. Good morning, how are you doing? Welcome back. Good, good. So feel free to jump into the Discord. I'll split my focus between Discord and Twitch chat. A couple of housekeeping things. I've changed a few elements of the stream. Number one, I'm restreaming through YouTube. Not in the hopes of getting more views, but rather in like a sort of archival sense. YouTube doesn't delete the live stream videos, whereas Twitch does. So I kind of feel as though I've been a little sad that I haven't got a footprint of what I've been doing for the last like 7 or 8 months. And so I'm just double streaming through YouTube in order to just have a record of what videos I've worked on. And the restreamers it will catch any viewers from the from the YouTube stream. I don't think YouTube is at the moment in its current iteration. I don't know if it's as good as Twitch in terms of funneling in viewers who are interested in what I do, the creative stuff. Twitch has the market cornered in terms of a really nice creative community. On that note, I also changed the communities I stream to. So when you're a Twitch streamer, you guys probably know this, but again, this is me being an old fart and just not getting my head around technology. So then I project it onto other people, and I was like, you guys don't get this, so I'll explain it to you. But really, it's just me justifying it to myself. There are maximum of 3 communities that you can stream to as a Twitch streamer. And for the last 7 months, I was just streaming to... for the last 7 months, I was just streaming to the writing community, which is the biggest place for writers, and these 2 niche communities, which didn't really attract any viewers. So I decided that I would like retune who I stream to. So writing is still there, and now I'm on small streamers, and I think the other one is creative minds. And I wanted to choose 2 communities that were larger than what I'm punching against, but not crazy large. Like, you can go into variety streaming and chill streams, and I noticed that a few other Twitch writers are doing that as well, and Twitch editors. I guess the downside of doing that is that you just get lost. So like in the same way that if you stream to a niche community, no one sees you. You stream to a big one, no one sees you. So you need to sort of pick like the middle ground, and we'll see how this works. If you're from one of those communities, then pop in and say hi. Hello. And I'd be interested to see who comes in from what community. Good, now let me go and read through everything. Yes, I ended up making a Discord. The link is... oh, it's gone! And I think you might have came just at the wrong time. Let me repaste the link for you. Just here. There's the link. Very difficult to find. It's on my dashboard, so I I decided to paste it here again. Yeah, so you can ignore your PC slow just by keeping the VOD up. Uploading it to YouTube. Keeping a VOD and uploading it to YouTube. You can actually. That's a second way of doing it. Restream is so I'm not double streaming right now. I'm using a service called Restream, which it goes to a single source, and then that Restream will split it in half. So it's for me, my PC is quite powerful. It's an old PC, but it does the trick. I'm hovering at 12% CPU usage. Now, it's not so much the CPUs being the bottleneck for me, it's my bandwidth. So for me, having like a one service split stream up here is a pretty good thing. Even for its regular, it doesn't even come close to Twitch activity in terms of live stream. 100% agree with you. Yeah, definitely agree. With the latter part especially, I don't know if it's like what can replace YouTube videos. I mean, there's Vimeo. I don't think there's a platform as well placed as YouTube just for the regular block content. For live streaming, I agree. Like, nothing beats Twitch. There are a couple of others, but I mean, Twitch is, I think it still suffers maybe from a perception that it's just a gaming service. For people who don't use Twitch, right? But I think once you're on Twitch, you realize just how good it is for anyone who does anything remotely creative. A lot of people don't even know about the search filters on YouTube. I don't. Try and find me on YouTube right now, and I guarantee you it's difficult. Actually, if you could, try. Please try. I'd be interested to see. And unless you specifically change the filter to live in the options, you won't usually get any results for the writing section. Right. YouTube has been messing up its policies and how it handles its users. It has, and it's only getting worse. That's true. It's only a matter of time before it actually dies. You know, that's an interesting topic. In the same way that Facebook right now is having a big backlash against it. All of these companies go through like a growth pattern, like bacteria. This sounds weird and a bit nerdy and esoteric, but bear with me. Bacteria have a growth phase, right, where their mission is just spread everywhere, collect all the resources, and then it gets to, like, I think it's called the log phase, where it's like, I can't really expand anywhere anymore. What do I do? And then you get into this weird stagnant phase of a bacteria's life cycle where it doesn't do anything. It's surviving, but it can't grow, so it stagnates. And that's where we're at with things like YouTube and Facebook. Like, they're at the stagnant phase, and they're trying desperately to grow because capitalism relies on growth, and it hasn't figured out how to be stable. So they make mistakes, and they lose core parts of their identity. I don't know if we're going to see them explode anytime soon, because I don't know what comes next. In the same way that, like, me as Lyre edits, I don't have a Facebook account because the platform's ruined for people like me who try and use it for social engagement. Whereas Discord for me makes much more sense because I get to connect with you people directly, and there's no ads, there's no fuss, there's no anti-chronological ordering. Yeah. So 1 sub, yay! 1 sub. It took me all of those years. Oh, good. Right. That's interesting. But I wonder if you didn't search for Lyrebird edits and you just searched for, like, writing live streams. Like, I wonder how that handles itself, because that's how people will find you. And on Twitch, that's super easy. You just go in, go to the writing subsection, and you find it. Just reached a phase where it doesn't really care about the users, and you care about those bringing large sums of money. Yep, the other 90% of the user base doesn't matter. So that's the other switch too. Went from being egalitarian into this happens with every platform, with every service under the sun. It's just the wealth of attention, or the wealth of capital, just it congeals into this tiny portion of people, and then you have you know, like, media groups that control different YouTube channels. There's no need for that, really, when you think about how YouTube operates. But you get syndicated, you get and all that sort of stuff. Same thing happens on Twitch with clans, but I feel like it's not as pernicious. Unless the streamer has live stream in the title. You need to notice the filters, which most people don't know exist. Just stick to Twitch if you want to see any success in live streaming. I agree. Yep. I don't think YouTube live streaming is quite there yet. Maybe give it time. They'll figure out how it's done. Yeah. There is YouTube gaming, that's true, though it doesn't really have any creative base, but it's strictly gaming, so they haven't got the balance right, do they? And to be honest, I don't know why, as a Twitch, like, if you are a Twitch... Oh, tell me if I'm too dark, by the way. I haven't got the lighting quite right in the room. If you're a partner with Twitch, you can't double stream anywhere simultaneously, or even if you're an acolyte, which I've been invited to be a part of, but I don't want to do it for a few reasons. If you're an acolyte or a partner, Twitch has to be your first stream port of call, and then you can delay release the same stream on another platform. But, like, if you're already at the stage where YouTube gaming is attractive for you, you're probably at a stage that you're a Twitch acolyte or a Twitch partner, in which case why not just stick with Twitch, because it's Twitch, right? It's yeah. Anyway, we've talked a lot about the politics behind this. We should probably start editing. That's what we do here in this stream. I mean, we could just talk about this forever, couldn't we? Let's maybe dive back into my story. Yay! But I'll just finish chatting here. Yeah, it's the first, and that's the first mover advantage. You're right, Octavia Memories. Yeah, and I agree. In the sheer flexibility and the ease of setting this up, like a microphone, a camera, and an internet connection that doesn't crap itself. That's all you need, and away you go. Hey, that's good news. Congratulations. It's a good milestone where you feel as though. Sorry, this is Octavia Memories here. Where you feel as though you're confident in just where your writings progress to. Yeah, congratulations. Keep writing more. More. Alrighty, so what I'm probably going to do is I might even just dump this file into the Discord at the end of the stream. Last stream we went through chapter 1, which I've subsequently edited off stream since then, and now we're up to chapter 2. So I will throw open suggestions for which section you'd like me to deal with. We can read. So I'll just copy paste that into my Twitch chat. There we go. I'm happy to do either. In some sense, we could work through this again, or we could just jump straight into chapter 2, and I can give a little summary of what's happened in chapter 1. What else has happened? I've finished this part. You'll see, but it's 11k words, 11.5. When did I start writing this? Let me check. Last Saturday. Last Saturday was when I started writing this, so it's been a week. It's a good sign when you can write fluidly, so what I've been tapping away at with this chapter is just to get it out onto the page, and what I've got now is extremely rough. There are I found this as I was writing, and it's something that's come up a lot in the many years that I've been doing this. But it's the fact that there are parts of your story that don't exist until they happen. If you write your story, or if you plan your story as though you've got these goalposts, like you have defined points that you want to happen, but then there's this sort of intermediate, I suppose, section where the details are a bit undefined, and often in those that stretch of time between the gates or the goalposts, you have to come to a very quick decision about what happens, and that's often the most interesting and kind of scary parts of the story, because it's just, you don't know what's going to happen. So there are lots of points in this story where I was like, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen, and it did. And then the more that happens, the more you get to the end of the little section, and you think, okay, I now know enough about how everything's progressed, such that I can then go back to the very beginning and start working on the elements that don't need to be there anymore. Yeah. Yeah, that's generally the best way to do it, Octavia. You do the whole first draft, and then you worry on the quality of the previous parts. I work in chunks personally. I don't focus on the whole story. I do sections, parts, let's call them, which can be like a collection of scenes or chapters. This part here, it's called Green. It has about, I think, a 9 or 10, 11? 10. It has 10 different chapters, about 3 to 4 pages each. They're quite short. And I find that once this is done, I can then go back and edit it confidently. But that's because I know that this is a story that's a collection of parts rather than just a fluid whole. So yeah, you can play by ear then. What about we just go through... Let's go to part 2. And I can rework on part 1 another time. There are elements I want to take out of part 1. But I feel as though that we can sort of safely ignore those right now and just push on into part 2. Part 1 deals with my character called Sai, who starts off in a lifeboat on the sea. Now, Sai is... what was I gonna say? Sai is adrift at sea and I guess sort of moping is the best way to put it. So, I guess from the reader's perspective, Sai has sort of given up and is waiting to die. Sai has a bit of a plan though, and it involves sort of being swept back into shore. And then working with what's around Sai in order to sort of break out of this green zone that Sai is in. Sai is in a very sort of contained area of the world. A bird comes and offers Sai, like, you're not using your human flesh anymore, I want it. And in exchange for what constitutes your body, I will give you a purpose for being here. I'll sort of provide the drive that you need to stop being so I suppose worn down, the drive to sort of push back to shore and actually do something. So Sai says, yes, that sounds lovely, thank you very much. And the bird takes Sai's flesh. Sai becomes this sort of pearl creature made of mother of pearl. And off the side of a lifeboat, a boy appears and he's drowning. So, which is here. I'm stealing it. You can't steal what's copyrighted, mate. How do you do the copyright symbol? I don't know how to do the copyright symbol, but until you see that, you can feel free to steal. I think it's sort of having... giving up and just waiting for death. Yeah, it's not friendly to write like this. Without, you have to be careful when you're talking about despair and a desolate character, because it can come across as kind of mopey. You have to justify it by context, and Sai's context is that she's been in this this torturous world for, I think, about close to a year, or what feels like a year. And everything is chaotic, everything changes constantly. It's kind of like being stuck in a nightmare. So for Sai to sort of give up is kind of like wanting to step out of a nightmare. There's very little that's pleasant or consistent in this world, and I guess that's sort of proven to Sai once she steps out of the boat and things start happening. Hey, TTLSCC, you've got the copyright now. Use it well. You now own my story. Oh, I can Google the... Ah, okay, nice. Sort of reminds me of the DeviantArt days. Yes, I know. You get to critique my writing. The editor has become the editee. Welcome back, Brady Bread. Let's you actually joined us at a good time. I've been waffling an awful lot. We should probably start. Okay, so I'll read this little section here. We're gonna push on to chapter 2 today. The girl pricks up her ears. Burr grabs her attention but makes not a move. Waits. Listens. Sai hears at them. She moves to the edge of the boat beside her new friend and peers over the side into the mouth of the green monster. Something is thrashing in the waves. Something is losing to the sea. Something human-shaped and spluttering, a mess of arms and hair above the green line. Sai's heart staggers into life as Bird says, "What will you do?" That was the end of chapter 1. So 2 starts here. They both disappeared. I'm not going to do any markup on this. What you see is what I will edit. So let me just... Yeah. They both disappeared under the water at the same time. The emerald whirled and closed down upon them in a fierce, silent wash. Sai opened her eyes to the sting, saw the boy. The boy was not a swimmer. Arms cut into the green as though he were a little spider monkey trapped in vines, pinned by the architecture of this fluid jungle. Sai knew she only had a moment's opportunity, so the pearl creature cut through this world of green, swishy, soundless. She reached out with her hand, almost there. Contact, and she pulls the creature into her body, then up, beating with lead legs against the suck of water. Second contact, and they break the skin of water. The ocean. What else to change? That. Get rid of all the almosts. Breath catches fast in Sai's lungs. She heaves with all of her might, the human mass into her arms. Have you noticed something about the tenses here? That's past tense. This is present tense, so she heaves with all of her might. What I'm trying to do is something that's kind of like a mixture of historical present and a mess. I don't really mind about the tense here, but that's experimental, and I think as an editor I'm going to have to judge for myself whether or not I can justify writing in 2 simultaneous tenses and having it mean the same thing. Usually I'd recommend not doing this, but I don't know, I'm bored of the rules. I want to see if I can make this work. And if I can't, then I'll just make it all present tense. Oh, sorry, people have been chatting. How rude of me. The concept of a character giving up in the environment of little hope and chaos. Copyright Octavia Memories. Well, it's there, I can't argue with it. It's your story now. I'm sure everybody else is assessing, but what's the general premise of the story? Fantasy? Mystery? Beginner's story, Beginner's Guide playthrough. Oh, I love the Beginner's Guide. That's a great game. It's never gonna... General premise of the story, Brady Bread. We've got a character who's stuck in a chaotic world. I think what's happened is that two gods arrived on Earth. One started to judge all the people and sort of weigh the value of their hearts, their sins, a bit like the Christian god. And the other god came in and was sort of like, this god is here and the other god is way up there. So the second god kind of had a bit of a war with the first one and just sort of ripped everything apart. As a result of that, we've got this very chaotic world where stuff just folds and changes all the time. There's very little consistency between the days. Sai is pretty sick of living inside a giant nightmare, and so she walks to this place that she knows is like a sort of one of the only safe and stable places, which I imagine would be pretty hard to get to. If she finds a way there, she effectively tosses her life away, and she's like, "Yep, I'm ready to die," because living here is terrible. However, she also has something in the back of her head too, and she sort of holds out that maybe something can help her. Something external can kind of come in and push her back onto the short line, and she will have a bit of a purpose in this place. So that's what happens in chapter 1. A bird comes and offers her a purpose in exchange for Sai's flesh. So Sai gives her body over to the bird. The bird drinks it, which is fun to write. And the bird sort of says, "Okay, you wanted a purpose? Well, here's your purpose. There's a boy drowning outside of your boat. What are you going to do?" And so Sai does the human thing and jumps off and saves the boy. Oh, you're considering doing a stream of the beginner's guide? Yeah, nice one. The new one, right? Like the oh wait, no, the beginner's guide. Oh man, I confused that with the other game that the same guy did. It's the Stanley Parable. The beginner's guide is oh, my messages. Well, that's what you get when you refresh the browser, Lyre. That was silly of me. Anyway, I've got your messages here. On my chat box. Yes, 100% do it. It's such a wonderful game. That game was given to me by a really good friend. Actually, he gifted it to me, and he said, "Look, I don't know what to think of this game, but I think you'll like it." And I did. I loved it. It takes about like an hour and a half to get through, and it is like a powder keg. It hits you right in the heart. It's a lovely game. It's one of my, I think, favorites. It's not so much a game as it is like an interactive, slightly interactive narrative. It's very, very clever. It's a real testament to the power of video games. No, it's really good. So do like if you stream it, have fun with it. Yeah, cool. Thank you. The plan for this story is that it's focused very much on Sai, and the background detail is sort of like I think in this type of story typically you'd have the gods as the main focus, and the main character would be trying to push their way up into getting rid of the gods. Sai does have a design to do that, but I think the story isn't about her righting the wrongs of the world. Rather, it's just going through the world and trying to make sense of it. I guess it's also going to explore that sort of idea about power and violence. So what gives the gods a right to come in and ruin reality, and what's the appropriate response to that as well. So it's a bit of a weird book. It's not so much like a fantasy style. One lonely boy is chosen at random to be the savior of the world. It's very much not like that story. It's a lot about Sai, and Sai's relationship to the person he used to be in the real world. I don't even know if he's going to end up fighting the gods. Maybe the gods will just destroy themselves halfway through, and then we kind of get to this weird section where there's no gods left. I don't know. I'm tempted to do that. You'll see if you read through most of this, you'll get a feel of what the story's trying to do. It preempts itself. So there's a very clear way that this story is going to go, and we'll get there in a second. Let me continue reading. Emily is Away. I'd like to play that. I've heard of it. Yeah, apparently it's quite sad. So yeah, I'd like to try it. Yeah, exactly. It's more of an experience. Why are you creating in the first place, and to never lose that reason? Yeah, that's one of the central themes of it, isn't it? It's a really, really good story. Let's dive back in. Sorry. The boy spats and gargles, so it should be spits and gargles, and then cries out with a scared whimper. Getting him back beside the boat is easy, getting him into the boat is another challenge altogether, but she managed, dipping the lip against the water and shoveling him inside the dry paper tray. Lyre rests her head against the hull, eyes stinging with water, hard alive. Her body is on fire, she could ignite at any second, it feels amazing. Girl looks up to Bird, Bird stares back with one eye down, sea dark. This is after Sai's come from a month of not really moving at all. So her body's just been sort of reignited, I guess. I'm not sure if I got that idea across. Maybe not. Let's read on. Inside the boat, they settle, with the boy on hands and knees, shaking, sea dripping from his lips. Eyes white and nowhere. Look at this creature, tea-colored skin peeking from dark rags, old trousers, old shirt belonging to the world that no longer exists. A pathetic newborn human in hell. Welcome, dear boy. Sai moves in close beside him and makes circles on the child's back. Maybe the warmth will help. Circulation there. She is a white cloud on his earthen skin. Wait. There is colour around the neck. Sai leans in closer and runs a finger along the stripe of a necklace, red obsidian, and laced so fine. Don't worry too much about what red obsidian is, just when you see stuff like that, I guess it's contradictory, right? Because obsidian is black and it can't be red. So imagine what it would look like. Maybe. Hmm. Any game popularity? Ooh, that's an interesting perspective on the game. I've never thought of it that way. My understanding was that it was two separate characters, and I know that at the start of the story, he says, "Hey, I'm Davy from the Stanley Parable," but I sort of interpreted it a little differently. Like they were two friends who just were on two different wavelengths of communication. One wanted to create, the other wanted to inject meaning into everything, and they had a personality clash. That was the obvious, I suppose, point of the story, but I guess the deeper meaning is sort of found in there. Yeah, it's a wonderful story. Brady Bird, if you don't live stream, if you don't live stream this, I might. It's a very clever story. I don't think I'd live stream it, but that's me personally, just because I like keeping the channel writing focused. But it'd be a good story to stream. The track leads around the front, where a large token hangs before his sternum. It holds the shape of a simple house, a triangle roof, square body. That's not important. I think I might change it, actually. There you go. What did I change and why? It holds the shape of a simple house, a triangle roof, and a square body. So like one of those typical child's drawing of a house. I'm gonna get rid of that and put in one silver square. It's hardly the most monumental effort, but yeah. Same person. I didn't get that. I thought they were two different people. Hmm. You could be right though. Hey, Audi Safari, welcome back. Good to see you. We're editing one of my stories right now. This is part 2. Part 1 was last stream. If you go back into my archive, you can have a gander at part 1. But we're working through part 2. You're right, and is yet to experience selection. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. The fresh reaction's what you need. Yeah. I shouldn't have been over, but that's okay. I'm happy to chat. They started a novel the other day. Oh, cool. Hmm. I think mine is a pseudo-religious story. Yeah. Interesting. To try and learn what he truly believes and how to process his new position. Hmm. I think there's a lot of room to explore pseudo-religious stories. It's hard to know where trends go and how trends start and finish, but this sort of feels like maybe there's something there. Yeah. But that sounds like a very interesting premise. And regardless of whether it's on trend or off trend, I think you should write it because a good story is a good story regardless of what its overall themes are or what kind of imagery it's using, what kind of commentary it's providing. Go for it. I think that sounds cool. The story doesn't have anything to do with them. Right. That can also work really nicely too. I'm halfway in the middle where the gods made this situation, but I think halfway through I'm just gonna make them kill each other. You mentioned the machine. Yep, yep. Surrounded by the press. Yeah, I remember that scene. Yeah. Uh, don't spoil it for Brady Bread though. You gotta give Brady Bread a fresh perspective. So one silver square. It's a sentence fragment. I don't really mind. The track leads around to the front, where a large token hangs before his sternum. One silver square. That would work too. Or even a full stop. I'm gonna be brave and put a full stop there. Sai rested between her fingers as the child sits up, takes in the horrible sight, or whatever the hell Sai is. He's about to scream. Sai calms the child like the wind, which is a throwback to part 1. It's okay, don't be frightened. Really, Sai, this may be the time the child is the least bit frightened in his whole journey here, but the pacifier works. He remains rooted to the spot, allowing Sai to lean in and inspect the token around his neck. For, yes, there is writing on the tag. Listen to it. Up upon the cliffs, the child can be reunited with a mother and father long lost. Sai looks at the shoreline over the head of the boy and spies the thin rind of sand and greenery so far away, but spot the mountains too. The cliff face is tall and slender against the tepid teal sky. They weren't there before, no. And yet now they are. I'm gonna get rid of the O there. So how the fickle world changes. A little sound then, an attention-seeking hum. The boy, still with owl eyes for the pearl thing made of rainbows, murmurs to the girl, "Where are we?" Sai doesn't want to say hell because it's not technically correct, so she settles for near the shoreline. Oh. Come on. That's... I kind of... Yeah. I quite like that. But let me know if it has the same effect for you as it does for me. I sort of want this to be undermined, like... In a sort of fantasy world introduction, you have, like a great spiel about this is the world that the gods left behind, or something like that, and this side doesn't care. Come on, let's head back to land and get you sorted out. Hand me the paddle. And she extends her hand to the right of where the child sits. The paddle wasn't there before. I used the no up here. Here. Three times, damn. The game ruined. Right, the experience is what makes it so, as Octavia Memory said. You can definitely get a good impression. Just put everything that Octavia Memory said out of your head. I think once you're in there, you'll all the details will fly away. There's a lot of detail in there, and some symbols. Octavia Memories don't mention the symbols. Don't mention them, because they need to be appreciated kind of fresh. You know the ones I mean. The Sai sets off without any way to return, and yet... So Sai set off. When Sai set off all that time ago, she left without any way to return, and yet now it is here, just like that, purposeful. Okay, why did I change this sentence here? Here's what it reads as now. When Sai set off all that time ago, she left without any way to return. What it was before was this: Sai set off without any way to return. Because of the tense of how the story's told, this could imply that Sai actually moves forward. This is one of those verbs that implies motion, and sometimes it's a bit difficult to tell whether it's happened in the past or it's happening right now. So in order to get rid of that confusion, you do that. When Sai set off all that time ago, which is a phrase that's grounded in the past, she left without any way to return. So the boy hands the paddle to Sai. Sai grips the salt-crusted aluminium. This is how you pronounce the word, okay, Americans? And in her pearl hands, and dips the paddle into the mouth of the water. It's not aluminum. Aluminum. Look, red squiggly line. Aluminium. Aluminium. There's an I there. Pronounce it properly. Pronounce it properly, please. Okay, just do this for me. I don't mind either way. I do mind. Don't pronounce it aluminum. No, it doesn't melt. Not like last time. Okay, so Sai dips the paddle into the mouth of the water. No, it doesn't melt. Okay, what's going on here? This is a tiny... I call these micro stories. These are great ways to, the hand gesture and hand gesture. That's the one. No, that sounds awful. I didn't consider having other voices on the stream, but I'm gonna keep it just myself, I think. Partly so that you don't spam aluminium. I trust you not to do that, but I just want to keep the stream, I think, for my own voice. Unless I have like a dedicated night of streaming where I get other people in. I don't know. But I think right now I'll just keep it me. Aluminium? Really? My whole life is a lie? It's true, your whole life is a lie. Aluminium, the metal. How do you pronounce it? Actually, I don't know where you're from, Brady Bread. So, depending on where you're from, aluminium. Thank you, that's the right way. What I've done here is I put in something called a micro story, and I often encourage people to do this with their own writing. Instead of giving big, thick background details or description about what's happened in the past to a character, or something about the city they're in, a place, you can weave those details in as the action is happening. So Sai picks up a paddle, and she grips the thing in her hands, dips the paddle into the mouth of the water. Well, look at that, the paddle doesn't melt. You think, okay, that's weird. Not like last time she tried to cross a body of water like this. Well, unlike the last time she tried to cross a body of water like this. So this implies that something has happened before. It's a backstory, it's a micro story, it's tiny, and it ends. You get no more detail than this. If you do this sparingly and with enough consistency and attention to detail, this can be a really powerful way to impart information into your story. Alright. Sai smiles and turns to Bird. Asks, "Give us a hand, will you?" Which is a bit like what Bird said to Sai up above, which is, give us your flesh. Give us a hand, will you? I think this is... okay. But I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to get will you. And just, can you give me a hand? Bird spreads his wings, would if I could, and jumps down beside the child. Hopping over to him like a little jumpy dog all playful. He stops before the rescued child. We got child here twice. He stops before the boy and speaks. Bird, says the bird. But the boy doesn't return his own name. He stares wide-eyed. Oh dear. Talking birds impress and horrify him like this. Sai begins paddling and calls over the wind. Boy, he's asking you for your name. Wouldn't mind knowing it too. Sriram. Where are you from? Chennai. Sai shrugs. I'm Silas. So, Chennai is a place in India. Hang on, 1 second. There's a reason it's crossed out, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Actually, I think you can maybe guess why it's crossed out. Sai shrugs. I'm Silas. Boy looks at the pale creature. Sai feels his cheeks rush a little bit, but concentrates on sloshing through the green swirl. Yet she, it's the same person, can't help but notice where the boy's eyes cut across her body, trying to reconcile the name to the flat chest, the little hips, smooth legs, and what does or does not lie between them. Because Sai is naked. Finding her face once more doesn't seem to help either. Now, I don't like the word seem. You know I don't like the word seem, regular viewers. Let's get rid of it. It's one of those filler words that has almost no purpose in writing. Personal opinion. Sriram concludes, Silas is a boy's name though. Bird laughs, buck buck buck, and Sai retorts, doesn't matter to me, at least I'm better than a bird. The bird stops laughing. Are you deaf, the Grim Reaper? I'll admit, I'm from Nah. Good old Nah. My word doc sees aluminum is correct and aluminium is wrong. Ah, it's because I've got the Australian dictionary. Down here. There it is. We can't turn off default US dictionaries. Look, default. Do you want to change? Yes. But for some reason, we can't undefault the US. I think this is still... Oh, well, I've got Japanese there for a reason, but I don't think I can get rid of US English. Colonizing my Word document. I'll Discord it. I've answered the way you said not to. It's the only way I've ever heard it before. Might no need to Discord it then. All good. Yeah. This is handy if you ever choose to write in the proper English. But look at all these languages. Isn't that cool? And you've even got like variants of French. That's nice, isn't it? Or oh, Singaporean English. But no one wants to write in Singaporean English. Nobody does. I don't even know if there are, like, what are the differences in, like, Hong Kong's English pack versus, like, Belize's English pack. Why are they different? I understand, like, UK versus US spelling, but I don't know why these exist. Unless this is Singlish, but you don't want to write a book in Singlish. Singlish is a mistake. Apologies if you're from Singapore. I love Singapore. I want to live there. I'd love to live in Singapore. Singlish is hard on the ears though. It's not. I'm just being forceful. Are you deaf? The Green Wicker. Sai is tempted to say yes, but the brief thrill of humour snuffs itself out. It's not really the sort of thing you should joke about, so Sai shakes her head and paddles on. You're pretty though, maybe more like a goddess. Sai's definitely tempted to say yes. Who would turn down a compliment like that? Thank you for saving my life. Boy brings his knees up to his chin, curls up on his seat, finally coming to some state of rest. The pale creature smiles back. Not long after, a tip of oil begins to drag in the sand. I like how I've ended this. Let me try and not be too biased about it. Sai leans over the edge and spies the rainbow of colour swirling beneath, not underneath, beneath the water, a myriad wash like a crystal ball exploding over and over. Everything at once. Sai catches her breath and returns oar to sparkling sea, shallower now, pushing hard, and the boat scrapes across the shoreline. Sriram eyes the beach before him, his head panning left to right like a camera, dragging in every detail. Sai plants the oar overboard like a spear and stands on the little bench, surveying. Yellow-brown stretches left to right. Over the hump of the primary dune, there is a green glow competing with the tempo of the sky. Look, you can actually see the place where LSD's nightmare used to tear the folds above. It is healing now like a puckered scar, sutured up, but very much not forgotten in the tight middle of the green ceiling. So that's where the bird came from, LSD's nightmare. Just like the crack in the sky. Sriram jumps overboard and finds the shore. Bird joins the boy upon his shoulder. The child shrieks, then calms. Sai is about to join them, one foot resting on the rail. She turns, inspects the little space that occupied her for her final stretch of time. It doesn't feel any different, does it, Sai? The colour in the water shines. The sky overhead reseals and heals and glows like the lanterns of Carico Village during the festivals. We'll come back to that. The wind warms her body with its hug, its song on her ears. Smells water her mouth. Body alive and breathing, no pain, just fluid, nothing. And it all feels the same. Purpose drove her away, purpose brings her back, and it's all nothing more than a trick for the universe to maintain some cruel balance. Sai. Bird calls from her perch on the child's shoulder. Don't get distracted, you've got a job to do, don't you? The message around the child's neck, a portent for the future. Sai nods and kicks off the boat. The sea takes her legs and kisses them with contact. She looks down and sees Pearl meeting the nebula, like stars flowing gently back into the source of creation. She smiles. Girl looks to her new companions on shore, begins her journey. Why? This is an example of what I tried to do with a micro story, and I don't think it's working, because it's too short. Oh, this is the end of a chapter, by the way. I think we're going to go into 3 as well. You'll notice that I'm not going to go back too much. This is a good illustration of why you can't successfully, to completion, edit your own work, because you know the story too well, and so you don't have a good perspective on how it needs to change. So all I can do at this stage is just do a bit of a line edit and really think about how everything folds together. And then go back and just do a brutal edit after a couple of weeks of letting it settle. Mind you, this was written last week, and part of the reason why it's difficult to edit is because it's so fresh and new. It needs time to settle. It needs time to stop being so new. I need a haircut. Okay, well, we're about a bit under an hour into the story? Yeah, we are, we're a bit under an hour. Let's see how long that takes to pop up. There we go. I wonder if it's the same synced feed. Let me have a look. It's not. It's slightly out of sync. Micro stories sometimes. Two comments about this. I'm overusing ellipses. Um, this, this. I'm sure there's one here. I think those and this makes sense. Sometimes you have to be careful about overusing grammatical features because it sticks out. Sometimes it's better to break them up into paragraphs. Sometimes when you do an ellipses, I think the best way to do it is to signify that the flow of the narrative is unchanging. What I did then was I got rid of the ellipses here and made it a new paragraph. I did this because they weren't there before, no. This is the cliff faces, and yet now they are. How the fickle world changes. New line, a little sound then. Oops. This works better than the ellipses because it signifies that there's a shift. Well, look at that, the paddle doesn't melt. Unlike the last time she tried to cross a body of water like this. Ellipses, Scythe smiles and turns to Bird asks. Excuse me. This flows well because the memory and the reality bleed together like that, like this. Exactly, yeah. That's the impression I'm trying to give. Yeah. And those are two very good rhetorical questions. By the end of this chapter, you'll have an answer to that one, maybe. That's a really interesting idea about unreliable narration. Now, there is a narrator in this story, and I haven't figured out who or what it is. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, won't we? But yeah, these are the sorts of impressions that I think I was aiming for. So yes, good to know that I'm somewhat on the mark. Oh, thank you, T8 Fall. Welcome to the stream, by the way. I haven't seen you before. Thank you for the compliment. I don't show my writing off all that often. This is the third time I've done it in 7 or 8 months of streaming. It's fun. I really enjoy doing this. And I guess it's also me trying to edit through my own work as well. Usually on Lyre edits, we take people's stories, but aren't mine. I go onto Reddit, or I ask for lovely people here to send me something, and we do a live edit here over Twitch. Usually it's in Google Docs, and I do a markup, so you can see what I'm changing, you can see my comments. This is different though because this is my story, and I feel like I can just plonk the edits directly in. So yes, welcome. Hope you enjoy your stay here. There was a typo? Oh, hink. Yeah, actually I did notice that, but I knew you meant a hint. No, it's fine, don't worry. If I'm ever at a loss for what anyone says, I just ask them to repeat themselves. Let's get rid of the ellipses here. There. And there. Great. Nice. So now we've got less ellipses. It's funny the things that you pick up when you go through an edit. I'll stress that this is the fresh off the press first draft. Usually you would only see a story like this that I'm working on half a year to a year after I finished writing it. I usually try and keep my writing very much away from the eyes of people until it's ready. But you know what? I don't mind. I don't really mind, actually. It's just because this feels like I'm doing the work that I'd otherwise be doing and just having people watch the process. So why not? This is a placeholder name. Do you remember Kakariko Village from Ocarina of Time? Everyone remembers that game. I remember that game. Oh, I love that game. It's this really niche game that no one's heard of, don't worry. Sky the Head reseals and heals and glows up the lanterns of Lon Lon Ranch. I had Kariko before, so I'm going to put it back there. Now, micro stories sometimes only work if they're micro stories only worked if they're contained or if they bleed out back into the main flow of a narrative. This is a bit blunt and doesn't give you enough information. What should happen here in this paragraph is that the rest of the imagery should be devoted to backing up whatever the hell I mean by what happens here. Except I don't do that. I plop in the idea and I leave it alone, and I don't think that's good. So let's go and rework it. The sky overhead reseals and heals and glows like the lanterns of Kariko Village during the festivals. What's a Zelda? I don't know. No, I do. Hang on. Let me find you a photo. Just wait for the photo to load. I think a Zelda is this. Wow, that is a URL. Ignore that. Damn, that URL is cancer. It's really bad. I just want to link the photo. If it's a picture of Luigi, so help me. It's not Luigi. Yeah, it is. That's link cancer up there. I'm so sorry. Zelda. That was my long-winded joke about Zelda. Anyway, I don't even know which one Zelda is. I think it's someone on the left or the right. Long story short, I was trying to make a Sabrina the Teenage Witch story. Story reference. I love that show. And Salem the cat, but it was a puppet, but it looked really good. Like, young me was like, that cat's talking! It's a talking cat! It's a puppet, but I was a bit of a stupid boy. Talking cat. Good. Habitual reminder to come and join my Discord. Yay, 10 out of joke, nailed it. Comedy Central right here. And for more lovely jokes, pop into my Discord. Subscribe to my Patreon. Like my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter. Retweet my Instagram, etc., etc. I don't have any of those. I've got a Twitter. I don't like Twitter though, so yeah. Remind me never to go on long-winded jokes again. I should I should do a picture of Luigi in the future. That'd be good. That's for new Rickroll. Let's fix up this. This is better. And all I had to do was change the accompanying image and the explanation was added. The sky overhead reseals and heals and glows like the lanterns of Carico Village before it was turned inside out. This explains what happened to it. A hopeful light like a smile over sadness is the follow-on. This nails it home, but it's a bit long. It's long. It's probably the max I'd push the sentence out to. I'm gonna leave it because I don't think it's quite there. When you're editing your own writing, don't be tempted to try and nail every redrafting element the first time you do it. I often find that when I come to tricky places that I remember having stumbled over last time, I remember what I started with. Then I remember iteration 2, 3, 4. And eventually I get to a stage where I'm like, okay, I can change it now. Such that I get it right. And finally, after multiple times of editing, multiple times, I'm happy with it. So when you do your own editing, don't be afraid if you feel as though you're not quite there. Fresh tip. Because you can't get it perfect. Like, the purpose of a redraft and an edit isn't to perfect the writing, it's to improve the writing. You will never, ever, ever stop. It's like a disease. It's like a virus. It incorporates itself into your structure, so you can't rid yourself of it. Eventually, you can just come to a state where you reach a happy equilibrium. That's what writing and editing, especially editing, is. It's reaching that equilibrium where you know you've maxed out the potential of what the writing is trying to unlock. Alright, I think I've cut down the two elements I really don't like here, the ellipses and the micro story. Let's move on to chapter 3. Chapter 2 ends like this. The girl looks to her new companions on shore. Begins her journey. Why? Why? Side points. See those cliffs in the very far distance. Sriram cups a hand over his eyes to shield away sunlight. Peers, nods. I see. With a little warm spark of hope building inside, Sai continues. I think your parents may be up there waiting for you. After all, who wouldn't want to be reunited with their loved ones? First thing after arriving in a strange new world. But Sriram looks away, hands flat by his sides. Sai feels a little jolt run through her heart. Bends down beside the boy and murmurs, what's wrong? My parents? Sai nods. My parents died a bit over a year ago. Dark eyes feel the sand, or find the sand, looking nowhere. Shoulders turn away. Sai breathes in, out, lets the sadness trickle away from them. One thing about calling your character Sai is that you can't ever do this. Sai sighed. So, whenever I'm going for a sigh, I have to write it out literally or doing it another way. Yeah, weird. A virus is not what I'm looking for in a happy equilibrium. Viruses are interesting things. There's a great Bjork song called Virus. Really pretty song. I love that song. Ideally, you'd want to remove yourself of the virus, wouldn't you? But a virus has a way of weaving into your DNA. What a virus does is it gets inside of your cell, and it cuts its own RNA copy into the cell, uses the machinery of the cell to reverse engineer. I think is it cDNA? That cDNA is incorporated back into the genome structure. The exact Look, I'm not great with viruses, and it's been years since I've studied them. But the overall effect is that a virus gets in your cell, it puts its copy of its DNA, which is RNA, into your DNA, and you become the virus. When you get a virus, you don't, strictly speaking, ever get rid of it. You just get rid of the architecture of the virus, which is the shell and the RNA inside it. But the DNA of the virus is now within you. So you're basically part virus. This is why it's so difficult for biologists to ask or answer the question, is a virus alive? Because it's not technically, but it is. In the same way that the Earth is alive. It's not technically, but it kind of is. What is life? I don't know. Readers can pronounce psi as a Spanish si, like the word sink. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with people going si instead of psi. Feels good. It feels good unless you got one of those herpes cold sores. Then it feels bad. Exactly. Virus doesn't sound so bad. If I were infected with a virus, at least that means I wouldn't feel alone anymore. Oh, that's nice. And kind of sad too. Don't feel alone. You've got Twitch to be your friends and family and loved ones. Sigh breathes in and out. Or in, out, lets the sadness trickle away from them. It doesn't make sense. Lets the sadness trickle away. Works a bit better. Even bird nestles in a bit closer. No, I don't want even. That's better. Usually the phrase even this character does that implies that the character usually doesn't do that, and we haven't spent enough time with these characters. I have my Snorlax plushie right here. Nice. You're never alone if you have a Snorlax plushie. Bird nestles in a bit closer to the boy's neck. An absent-minded hand rises to touch the creature's feathers in return. Pet pet, like a dog. Everyone has a story like this to mark their lives from before the split. This is an odd thing I'm doing. I don't really recommend it, but I want to throw it in and see if it sticks. So I think everyone has a story like this to mark their lives from before the split. You can probably guess what this is. It is some factor of sadness that marks their heart like a stain and follows them into this world. You can't escape the sadness, it seems. Sriram looks back to Sai with little flecks of tears in his eyes, says quiet, I'd like to see them again. I don't really care if this is a dream or heaven or if I'm back on Earth. I just want to see them. Sai extends her hand and opens it before the child, waiting, and says, I'll take you there. B-Link. Tea and milk. I don't know if that's the best way to describe what they are, but I don't... Why did I write that? You know what? It's gonna stay in there. Part of me wants it gone, but I'm gonna keep it in. I'm gonna keep this in, and then see if in redrafting 4 or 5, if I'm still as enamored with calling my characters tea and milk because of a different coloured skin. I don't really like that, but it kind of works. I don't know. How do UK people ideally drink their tea? Got any UK people here in the stream? My understanding of UK tea drinkers is that it's milk. It's like, excuse me, let me illustrate what I think is a stereotypical UK tea drinker. You got your tea bag, you got your cup. This cup is already full of water. You go one and you throw the tea bag away. Then you get one of your milkmen delivered milk tins, the glass, reusable glass things, and you kind of pour, just keep pouring, and you go about 3/4 of the way through one of your milk things. Basically milk with a whisper of tea. Pardon the stereotypes. I drink my tea black. Like a sensible human. But if you're from the UK right now and you want to jump in and defend your honour, please do so. I'm kind of making up for Australia's abysmal public image right now with our cricket scandal. If you haven't heard of the cricket scandal, it's because you're American. And because cricket is a different world, but Australia takes cricket very seriously, as does the UK, as does South Africa, as do the Windies, as do India, and as do New Zealand. You screw up in cricket and your country is dead, basically. And we had a really nasty cheating scandal recently, which was very upsetting. I don't like cricket, and sport's kind of like, I can take it or leave it, but it's a pretty big thing because a lot of people love sport and they put a lot of their emotional investment into it. Cricket as well as a very gentlemanly game, and so cheating in cricket is, oof, not on. Pretty sure they also drink it black, says Gaps1234. Probably do, don't they? I couldn't refuse a jab at English tea drinkers though. Bubble milk tea, yes. Very healthy, very tea. Esports, woo! Esports has its own problems too, doesn't it? With the, I think they started to clear it up, but you know, the whole like CS:GO gambling thing. And I'm sure there's match fixing and stuff that goes on as well. So milk and tea, T8fall says. So I'm probably gonna have to explain this. Sai is made of pearl basically, and Sriram is from Chennai, so his skin is dark. And I guess like I was trying to think of a not so suitable way to describe them together. This probably isn't appropriate if you were talking about in a person-to-person sense in the real world, in a human context like what we're doing. I don't think it's appropriate to describe people like this. But you know what? I don't think the context here carries the same level of, oh, you can't say that about Indian people, you can't say that about British people. I think within a fantasy setting where you've got this creature that's not really human, and this boy who's probably the only human within the whole vicinity, you can be a bit dehumanizing in how you talk about people. This is touch and go. The racial element is a bit concerning. So what I'll do is I'll leave it and I'll have a think about it, and I'll see if this is appropriate to continue forward in the other edits. That's probably the best advice. If you write something that you're not quite comfortable with, not even on like a racial aspect, but just in like a sort of, does this fit the story? Leave it. Or get rid of it and see how it feels to you, and then come back in the next round of edits and think about it again. Just keep going over and over and over and over, especially if you're writing something that's a bit controversial. It's like, I like this. It's like, okay, and the shock and horror. This is Lyre colonialism. Oh no. Tea is actually really interesting. little sidetrack. I went to Sri Lanka last year, at the very start, and I went to some tea fields, and learned about the different types of tea processing and how, like, the age of the tea leaves that you harvest and what kind of tea you can make. It's really interesting stuff. A lot of the tea that's grown in Sri Lanka is grown by this is just my understanding of my what I saw within the country, and I'm sure there are differences here and there, but on the whole, Sri Lanka's got two racial groups. There's the Sinhalese and the Tamil. Tamil are from South India, and the Sinhalese are sort of what you could consider Sri Lankan islanders. Um, and the country's got a very sad history about race riots and civil war. Um, One of the things you notice when you're there is that all the people picking the tea are Tamil, and the owners of the place are Sinhalese. And that's probably not going to apply for all the way across the country, but that's sort of just one interesting area about like the functioning of the tea economy of Sri Lanka. And I'm sure that the reverse happens too. Um, yeah, it's interesting to go to a place where you see stuff like that, where society is so stratified in a dual sense. It's very interesting. Hmm. Tea is interesting. The three heroes walk along the stretch of shoreline towards their destination far, far away. Chili tea. I've never had. I've had peppermint tea, yeah, but chili tea. Would that work? Chili chocolate works. Chili tea. Maybe. I don't know. Sri Lanka's beautiful, by the way. It's a lovely country. I consider going there again. And the people are very friendly, and they take great pride in their country. And the ghosts of the Civil War are still there, but people are getting on. You meet people who have their heads screwed on properly and who have clear eyes about what happened, and like you speak to your guest house owners and you ask them about how everything is cultural wise, and sometimes there'll be Tamil and Sinhalese working together in the same establishment as equals, um, and they say it's sort of very sad what happened. And it's like any sort of conflict anywhere. There are people who just want to live their lives. Yeah. Regardless of what's going on in the grand structure of the country or what other things are happening. You find that a lot in those sorts of conflicts. It's very sad. I'm making myself sad. I shouldn't do that. It's good to have your head screwed on properly. It keeps you well grounded. That's my life advice. Keep your head screwed on. The three heroes walk along the stretch of shoreline toward their destination far, far away. They won't make it in a single light cycle. An overnight stretch awaits them, maybe in the jungles around the beach, assuming the world hasn't reshuffled. Maybe on the hills. Sai takes her eyes away from the quest marker, which is the cliffs, and turns to the beach. Yes, a fruit rind, like the colour of rockmelon, curved like rockmelon, flowing into the horizon out, so cantaloupe is what a rockmelon is. The Americans here. Yes, fruit rind, because marker turns one to beach. Yes, a fruit rind. This works because, did I mention it in this chapter? Let me go here. Yeah, this is a stretch because I haven't mentioned it in this chapter. In the last chapter, Sai looks at the beach and decides that um, it's like a piece of fruit, like a fruit rind. In this chapter here, the same image comes back up. This softens it a bit, the reintroduction. Yes, it does look a bit like a fruit rind. The colour of rock melon, curved like rock melon, flowing into the horizon out. So there's a beach north of Newcastle along Anna Bay, but it's an almost continuous stretch of sand like this, with dunes spiraling out at the back, like pot marks on the moon. You'll notice that whenever I'm referring to a place that exists on Earth, I cross it out. Chennai, Newcastle, and Anna Bay, which is north of Sydney in Australia. Anna Bay's lovely. Let me find a photo of it. It's really nice. Yeah. Let me head sure is, but I'm not sure where my mind is. Step 1, secure head. Step 2, secure mind. This is Stockton Dunes at Anna Bay, which is not a fantastic photo showing the sheer depth of just how long these dunes are. Let me find a better one. It's a bit like being in the desert. It's really cool. That's an okay photo. It does, doesn't it? It mostly sounds like a beach. And if you look at it on Google Maps, just type in Anna Bay Beach, Newcastle, Australia, you'll see that it's just like a long stretch of sand like this. It's not a bay because it's facing the ocean, but it's long and the dunes are quite thick. Hey, LET! Merry Eastmas to you too. I hope your Easter is treating you very well. I don't know what to say on Easter. Because you can go like the secular thing, like, hope you're getting lots of chocolates. And you can do the religious thing, like, I was joking with my girlfriend who's Catholic, and we were sort of saying, do you think Jesus will come back this year? And she was like, oh, he probably deserves a holiday, doesn't he? He might not come back. I said, oh, I've got a feeling he'll come back. But I think that's a bit sacrilegious. So whatever the occasion, Merry Easter to you. which Christmas? Sorry. Easter, what a place with Christmas. One celebrates the birth, the other celebrates the death and resurrection. And either way, we get holidays. Sweet, sweet holidays. Apparently, Easter falls on a 57 million year cycle. Or is it a 5.7 million year cycle? Because it's like... Easter is, I think... the first week after the solstice, or is it the full moon after the solstice or something? I think it's the full moon. It's a pagan thing, and it's the timing of it is so unusual that, but it works in a cycle, and apparently that cycle is like millions and millions of years long. Isn't that cool? I'll accept Brentland's presents regardless. Yes, my life is one big holiday. That's a good life. I wouldn't mind a life that was just a continuous holiday. Mm. Clearly the only proper response is to shout, "Yes, Brian!" I think that's an appropriate response too. Tomorrow for you guys? Easter Sunday's today for us, so... He's already risen for us, but he's yet to rise for you. This is how time zones work. Or is it Easter Monday? I don't know. I used to know. My life is on big holiday mostly because I'm a NEET. Well, it has its advantages, doesn't it? That's for sure. Some disadvantages too. I think as long as you're happy. Can't fool me yet. Rats. I'm always trying to fool you, TTLECC. 1 year, don't you worry. The backstory of this story actually is about partly the Christian God. When God decides to come back and judge everyone on Earth. But then God number 2 comes in and stuff gets weird. So I don't know. Part of the story will kind of deal with what that means for people. Like if everyone had to be collected together and judged, or if everything just went kind of crazy as the gods were fighting. I don't know. I'm still yet to figure out how that fits in. Later, it'll fit in later. But again, because it's such background detail, it's not that important for Psy in the present. So it'll come when it comes, in another sense. You can write... It's appropriate to write like this when you want to have your characters as the central focus of the story, rather than like the grand meta-narrative of the Battle of Gods, or the who rules supreme over Earth. That's a very different story. This one here is very much focused on the characters. Where are we? With students spiraling out like the back like pot marks on the moon. It's an interesting thought, isn't it? It depends on like how you see God, doesn't it? If you see God as the entity that has a direct interaction in our lives, or if it's so far beyond that, and so fundamental to the way the universe functions that it doesn't care about us. Like, I think that's something really interesting to try and reconcile. Maybe something that I want to touch on here as well is that God number 1 is the God that sits just above us, and God number 2 is the fundamental aspect. And then when they have that conflict, God number 1 is just like a big human in a sense, and God number 2 is the universe, so it's obvious which one wins. But that kind of raises questions about like what we think God is, and how humans pray to God and worship God. It's an interesting idea, and that's what I want to touch on in this story too, but not right now. Here's a duplicate of Earth. So I remember Society of the Milky Way. What am I saying? There's a beach north of Anna Bay. So I remember Society of the Milky Way slicing up the dark with a glittery packer. I was expanding this part here to make the writing more fluid in terms of how the two images work together. Sorry, I'll just read this in a tick. I'll get to the end of the paragraph. So I remembers the side of the Milky Way, slicing at the dark with a glittery pucker, how it shone so bright, how darkness and sea song, and that gritty layer of powder all combined in the memory, a good memory, and on command in the here and now. So we've gone from memory back into the present. The sky above her head mimics her thoughts, and the galaxy projects itself through the sunlight, solarized anti-light, but so beautiful as it gleams before the scar before them. Before the scar... Through the scar from the fall, replacing the green sky, replacing it all. Daylight and stars shine so. Wow, breathes the boy, tightening his grip. On size... hand. Yes, the reconfiguration of this world can be beautiful sometimes. Sometimes only. Or only sometimes. I want to experiment with this. Cool. I think it's because if you look at it from the Christian mindset, it's not you're being judged for the sake of being judged, but because humans are from grace. That's right. And they ate from the tree of good and evil in the garden. So the humans get redeemed, or they remain in sin and thus judged. That's true, yes. So it's not, as you say, it's not in the sense that they're looking at it from the universe down. They're looking at it from sort of the human morality sense, and they push up into what God is. And that's why the focus on judgment is so important. Religions, they have a saying on Judgment Day: God will judge humankind to see whether they have the right to go to heaven. Whether they have the right to go to heaven. I think the point of Christianity is that no one has the right to go to heaven. The cultural Christianity version is you do good things, you go to heaven, bad things, you go to hell. But Christianity states, because of that act of the falling from grace, so God's act of grace to mankind is to redeem all of humanity back into God's graces. And that's what Jesus' death and resurrection is supposed to signify. Which is a lovely message, and it's what attracted me to Christianity in the first place, until it gets messy. I'm not a Christian anymore. I used to be. And part of what I'd like to explore in this story is that idea about what faith is and how it changes and why it changes. We'll get to it when we'll get to the bridge when we get to the bridge. So, yes, the reconfiguration of this world can be beautiful sometimes. Sometimes only. Nope. And sometimes it can play cool tricks. So I spot something ahead in the sand. Dark, tall, like a piece of driftwood, all perfect and straight. Across the sands, it is a tall piece. It is a tall piece of architecture, purpose-planted, leaning like a famous tower, just so. As they approach, I can feel a special gravity growing around the item. Closer now. Closer. The trio stop and admire the weapon planted point first into the unworthy golden earth. Across, a hilt. A sword that gleams like a solarized sky with special stars all woven through the glassy body. It's mimicking the sky. Sai takes another step forward, and the wind picks up. Gravity kicks in, creating a special kind of crush in the atmosphere. Wait. Come in, dear girl, come in. He feels the song, I'm gonna put that to she. She feels the song bleed and crash into her mind, into her chest, threading hands through the ribs and pulling tight. Because I think Sai is more female than male. Threading hands through the ribs and pulling tight. Hands on fire with the neural command to reach out, to grip the hilt, to pull the thing from earth and claim it. Bird croaks soft over the magic. Sai, take your weapon. Take it. The world is a dangerous place, and you need a weapon to defend yourself. Go on. And Sai turns, moves on, away, tugs the boy into line, and simply walks past the sword in the sand. I think what you said here is interesting. It's sort of like, I don't want to get into a big discussion, but I think I'm happy to do it. I think because my Twitch is my channel's small enough and the people here are lovely enough that even if we disagree, we can have a good discussion about it. Touch wood. We're gonna get very, very in depth with this. And everyone's gonna be throwing shit at each other. I'll lose friends. Everyone will end up in tears. But Lucifer was the one who wanted to be like God, and we all know how that went for him. That's right. Be like him. The Lucifer aspect's a really interesting cultural element that's sort of planted onto the Bible. There's not an awful lot about Lucifer's interactions with God in the Bible, except for Job, which is a book all about Lucifer's interactions with God. The Genesis story, though, has a lot of interesting baggage around it because of like huge art movements that focused on biblical pictures, I suppose. And there's also the Jewish influence as well that was trimmed back in the Christian version of the story. There's the version of the story with Lilith and Lilith, which is more Jewish, not Christian. So it's like this thing here is really interesting about like the backstory of the Bible in a sense. Really interesting to see how thin it actually is within the Bible itself. But outside of it, there's this big sort of meta story. It's really interesting. You can say like the government God created everything about Lucifer, so mankind will be able to know his side of the story. Yeah, that's interesting too, isn't it? Like if you let's step into the story world here. We only see it through one lens and not through the other side of the story. A Christian might argue that the other side of the story is told through the world. The Bible's very keen on differentiating the godly aspects versus the world, it's called, through which Lucifer operates. So they'd argue that the other side of the story is just what we see around us. Of course, I don't necessarily agree with that. It's just that the way that the story works. Just in Discord. It's an interesting idea, isn't it? They make for good stories, though, and they make for good villains, don't they? A multifaceted villain with different motives is often just presented as an evil thing, but we don't really know their motives until we start to listen to them. Sorry, I'm laughing at Discord. Um, the Lucifer's thing, I think, is about earthly knowledge as well. The meta story around Lucifer is his human aspects, I suppose, his desire for knowledge, which is interesting too. But I don't even know where that comes from, actually. I don't know where Luciferians get their idea from. Yeah, that's right. So Lucifer wanted to be like God, or to supersede God, or maybe it was even just a rebellion. If you read Job, that part of the Bible, that's a really unusual book. It's the first one that was written like, chronologically. Like Redwall by Brian Jacques. You never know which one comes first in the series, but Redwall comes first. And Job comes first in the Bible. And it's a really unusual book because it's not what you expect at all. It's really interesting. I think the impression that I'm delivering here in the story is what I want. So we have a whole paragraph dedicated to there's a sword under the sand, pick it up, it's special, and Sai doesn't. So go on, and Sai turns, moves on, away, tugs the boy into line and simply walks past the sword in the sand. Wait, what? Come back, you didn't pick up the weapon. Bird croaks, creaky, urgent. Wait, what? Go back, pick up the weapon. I'm just gonna copy and paste that in. Okay, here's something interesting. Come back, you didn't pick up the weapon. Bird croaks, creaky, urgent. Wait, what? Go back, you didn't pick up the weapon, which is exactly what the narrator said. Two implications here. The narrator is Bird. Don't think that's the case. Or the thought is so common between how the narrator sees the world and how Bird sees the world that they overlap. That's what I'm trying to imply here. Don't think Bird is the narrator, and I think we've had enough groundwork with how separate those characters are, the narrator and the bird. I don't think that matters too much. But subsequent edits may change my mind about that. You didn't pick up the weapon. No, why not? Sai doesn't answer, just breathes out long and slow through her nose, grips the child tighter, moves on, away. The wind bites angry at his heels, pulls his arms and shoulders back. Sai pushes on against the force. It's almost like that childhood dream, where you try and run, but the world slows down, until you move only a centimeter at a time. Whoops. Stuck, but the girl breaks free and pushes on along the star-strewn beach. Boy murmurs, that sword looks so cool. Sai, listen. Bird flutters in against the creature's shoulder, moth light. Creak, creak in her ear. There are many dangerous things in this world. You do well to arm yourself. How many times have you seen this universe give something so precious to you? It's almost unheard of. Exactly. Do you think it's a trap? Sai shakes her head, unable to put her refusal into words. Bird huffs like a bored dog, digs into pearl flesh, and murmurs, every hero needs a weapon. Every hero is dead, though. That's the end of a chapter. That's the end of a chapter. So on they walk. Way up ahead, they spot something along the shorefront. What's this? I think Brian Jacques' story, it's a huge story series, words. Brian Jacques' novels, the Red Wall series, were hugely influential in getting lots of kids to read. I read a few of them, but I never quite got into them. I wasn't a good reader when I was a child. Reading was difficult for me. I think the very thick nature of the stories put me off. Yes, Brady Red, I'm switching back and forth between sides. Sex. Or... I think what it is the narrator implanting a different aspect onto Sai. Sai doesn't have much internal consistency between whether they're a boy or a girl. I think Sai just... Originally I started the story with it in mind, but Sai was like an intersex thing, where it didn't have a sex. And so what the narrator is trying to do is it's struggling to think of what sci is, and so it's just jumping back and forward. I said something different last stream, but I think that's probably what I'm trying to settle on. I'm experimenting to see whether that can work. Just give me a second. I think there are some people at the door, and if there are, we're having a family luncheon, a get-together today, so I may need to actually head off. Let me just go check. Back in 2 minutes. 2 minutes? 2 minutes. Nine PM lunch. It's like, I don't know, sometimes when you have family lunches as a child, you're like, yeah, lunch, it's gonna be great. And then it's like 3 o'clock and everything's rolling out, and you're like, I was promised lunch? Lunch isn't 3 PM? That's me being a little shit, like, when I was 8 years old. But I guess as an adult, you're just like, yeah, lunch is, it's coming soon. But yeah, time zones, that's right. I think you're referring to my splash screen. I've got something planned for my splash screen and my icon thing, but I won't say too much more about that until I can get the process rolling. But it may be changing soon into something lovely. We'll see. I'm gonna have to call time on today's stream, which is fortunate because we started chapter 4. So we've gone through 2 and 3. Apologies if the pace was a little slow. And if my editing wasn't up to its usual thorough standard. I think this is one of those times where editing your own work, especially such an early draft of it, is more it's more like rewriting or redrafting or going through and doing very small changes. I think it's important to give yourself time between writing and editing to really give yourself a critical sense. So I guess this is in some sense more of a showcase. But thank you for joining me. And thanks for the great discussion we had too, for everyone joining in and saying hello. Remember that you can join my Discord. There are now 6 people, yay! My army is growing slowly, very slowly. I will continue to work on this story and continue to write. I'll post little snippets of it here and there on the Discord channel, so come back, and I could even post chapter 4 for you guys to read. Chapter 4, part 4 of this thing here. That needs to go, actually. That was a piece of old writing. Yeah, so I'll put that out of sight, out of mind. Enjoy your Easter. Merry Eastmas. I hope it's a lovely time with family, or if it's got religious significance for you, then that's cool too. Yeah, thank you for joining me. I didn't drop a single frame tonight. Today. I'm so happy. No frames dropped. 0%. Yes. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks again for joining me. I hope you like the story. If you got any general comments about it so far, just let me know, either here or in Discord. Um, but yeah, that'd be cool. We will see you on Thursday night, 9 p.m. my time. Look at the countdown on my dashboard, and you'll see it there. Catch you next time. Bye!